Last summer at the Dudley Square Branch Library, teens were paired off with first responders whose life-size portraits they painted using donated doors as canvases. Now the originator of this well-received workshop is hoping to repeat this process with new artists and models this spring. Here now is Leslie MacWeeney, who is best known for mentoring kids, teens, and adults at community arts organizations. She's just launched a nonprofit called Living Art to continue portraits, people, and places, opening doors, a new beginning. It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, yes. It's our pleasure. Now, let's talk about this unusual situation where you have young people who are just trained as artists painting portraits. Now, tell us about, how this came about. You've been evolving this format over years.
Yes, I've taught the portraits class for many, many years because it gives students an opportunity to build their self-esteem and increase their ability to paint and to draw first and then paint. Many of them have no art classes, and they came into the program this past summer with little or no training, and they do a drawing to start with, and we put that away, and then by the end of the 7 weeks we look at it again, and there's a huge change because they spend all day, every day, 5 days a week drawing and painting. This year the theme was the first responders, as you mentioned, because I was very upset, as many people are, by the violence. And I know my teenagers are basically distrustful of first responders, particularly of the police, and would never dream of calling on them for help. No, they'd run the opposite way. So anyway.
So besides teaching them art skills and techniques, you're also mending fences with first responders and increasing their self-esteem and even business skills, right? It's right, stealthily, you're teaching a lot of other skills besides perspective and depth and all that.
Well, they get paid.
That's a good way to get people to come to the program.
That's the way to get them to come. They need to. Teenagers need money, and it's not fair to them if they don't get paid. And they do get paid through a number of city programs. And those programs place them in different situations. I'm probably one of the few visual arts programs that are on offer to them. And they don't know if they're going to like it or not, but they do like it and they stick at it. And right. It's amazing how long they will do it.
You've gotten such glowing appreciation from past students over the year. But let's focus on what's going to happen this weekend. There's going to be an exhibition and a sort of brainstorming session together in Esther's restaurant, which is in Lower Mills in Dorchester. And tell us who's going to be there.
The world and his wife, I hope.
Yes.
That's who's been invited, and they are hopefully going to be able to make the connections that will help with the funding for the program. Because of course we need to buy art materials, we need to pay an instructor and a helper, and we need to move the doors because they're scheduled to go to different places. And City Hall in April, which is a nice thing, right, in memory of you-know-what.
Yeah.
And it seems an appropriate time to show them there, and it's been arranged for a long time.
All right, but we should make clear that because of the success of the paintings and the good relationships, which we're going to get to in a minute, of last summer, this spring, already in February, you're opening up a new class with new first responders, and they're the ones that you need to get funding for. So the first responders and the kids that painted the old ones are going to be at Esther's talking about it, and we're hoping that philanthropists, politicians, media people will all come. Now, who's going to be the hostess of this or introducing it? You have Linda Dorsina Forey?
Yes, Linda is very supportive, and I think that'll be very helpful. And we have some poets, and the poets are interested in helping, and they did help in last summer's reception, and everybody loved them. And they said things in poems that the students really loved, and the audience, the public, really loved to hear. And they say it so well, because they're poets.
All right, but tell me, I understand that the police had the Dudley Square police had such a good experience with you guys that now your spring session, which is starting in February, you're going to have a studio in the new Bruce Bowling building, in the renovated Ferdinand building, and they're hoping that more police will connect with more kids, right? So
yes.
It's last summer, and this spring it's starting all over again with new people, right?
That's right. And we may have some of the old, former, last summer's first responders posing again, because they became good friends with the students.
I understand they really made close
Yes,
connections,
they absolutely
personal
did.
ones, one by one, because
Yes.
you're sitting there
Yes.
being painted, you discuss things, right?
Yes, and there's something about somebody looking at you very intently to try and represent who you are. It's not just what you look like, but what is your character. And as a painter, as a young artist, that's a hard task. But they do look very hard, and they do talk about what they're trying to show. And then the poser, the police, or the firefighter, who this year was a woman, by the way, one of the few women firefighters in Boston, and was very interested in being a role model for the girl students. And because she really is a firefighter, gets up on roofs and all that stuff.
So she saw, it's not a superhero on TV. She does it. She's a
really
firefighter.
does it.
Yeah.
And we proved it.
Yeah.
We got photographs
Yeah.
to show it. And so they start to talk to each other. And the students are unknown, really. Also, this age are unknown to many of the first responders. They don't have them in their daily life necessarily.
Yeah.
They may have if they have some children or nieces and nephews. But then they begin to get to know them, and they see how sweet they really are, even though some of them may actually be on probation. But they still can learn, and they do learn. By the end of the summer, they have changed. There's no question.
So it's a détente. It's a one-on-one appreciation of each other, and they can extrapolate that to saying, well, I've met these different first responders, and they seem like really nice men and women, and maybe the police, and that spreads throughout the community, because they will be invited to Sunday's event, and they'll be seeing the press coverage of all this. And, it is quite an accomplishment. Now, the paintings from past years, these things, tell us some of the places that the paintings from former portraits, people and places are. It's going to be at City Hall, but aren't there all?
Oh, yes. The first, we worked for a long time, 6 years, in the Common Square Library in Dorchester. And during those years, we exhibited them in the library. And then it occurred to me that they really needed these students to be more exposed. They're at an age when they feel they're on the edge of the world and they have no power. And all the adults around them have power. And so I thought, well, get them into somewhere big. And so we went to the headquarter library in Copley. And that was a big success. And lots of people saw them, of course. Then we went, I don't know the order, but we've been to Northeastern, Harvard, BU, Mass Art, and almost every library in Boston. And there's 100 of them installed in the Dorchester District Courthouse.
Right, that's wonderful.
Because I had one of the
so there's 100
who
now.
volunteered. He came off the street into the library. He volunteered to help. He came on the board, and it turned out he was district attorney, I think.
Yeah, district attorney.
And he knew the judges and that sort of thing. And he suggested to them it might be nice to put these students' works in the courthouse. And so there are 100 there.
Wow. So now, do you auction them off? I imagine that the first responders would like to have, or many of them would like to have the ones. I mean, I know the students would like it, but also, how do you? Is this like a Solomonic thing that you have to cut it in half, or what?
Well,
Or Dutch doors? I don't know.
One of the people who posed's mother called me up, and she wanted to buy the door, but she didn't want him to know till she got it. Well, she hasn't got it yet, but she will be getting it.
All right, so
this Sunday.
All right, that's just to wrap it up there. They should look on Facebook for Living Arts, right? Living Art.
I don't have a Facebook yet for Living Art, but I do have a Facebook for Opening Doors, A New Understanding.
Opening Doors, A New Understanding.
Yes.
All right, so they should look at that for details.
Yes.
I'm sorry our time is up, but thank you so much for coming.
Having us.
It's such a pleasure.
Nice. Thanks a lot.